Well, students, we're going to continue working on the cityscapes. I'm going to do an example of outlining and shading on both the white one and the black paper. So for the white paper, if you did not finish tracing it with marker, I would like you to get that done. If you've got some areas where you still have windows that could be drawn or lines that could be traced, even this broken line, it looks like I need another line or two. Have this one go right off the page. If you need clouds, wind, since this one's daytime, I've got my sun. When you have that done, I would like you to try to do some thick lines because that will make certain things stand out. So especially on these windows, I can do something like an L shape. It's gonna make it look like it's more three-dimensional. If it's a rounded window, I could do a C shape instead. And just do that all on one side. So you can see that I'm doing that on the left side. Same thing here, I can do that on square windows, just making one side of it thicker. You can also find windows that might need window frames with lines on them. I'm gonna do some thicker lines on that. This could be a good area where this line, if I just fill this in with marker, can make that area stand out. So I encourage you to do some thick lines versus thin lines. If you do, I definitely want to do that over here. Maybe I'm gonna have another smaller window in here and then make this side thicker than the other side. And then I want to make this line here a thicker line too. You can see I did a bunch of thick lines on the car. You can have thicker lines on the sidewalk too. Okay. When you have that finished, then I would like you to just double check your erasing and make sure that everything is erased before we do the shading on it. So I'm gonna take my eraser. I still have some areas where I can see the pencil, so we'll erase that out. And then I'm gonna shade it from dark to light on certain areas. My job is not to color the whole thing in. So here, I'm gonna take this, erase this out, and then on certain parts, such as the sidewalk, I can start really dark and then get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Dark, lighter and lighter and lighter. And I'm just doing that on one side. For me, that's the left side of all of these. If I'm doing that here, I can do that within some of the buildings too. If it's something that would be like sticking out and the sun would put a shadow under it, like the roof, I can just put a little bit of shading with pencil, just dark and then lighter and lighter. Please keep in mind, your job is not to just color the whole building. So I'm just shading underneath these windows a little bit, shading under the roof line, shading in a few of these thicker spaces. It's just gonna give it a little bit of depth and detail and make some of those roof lines stand out. If you have the shading done, do think about that within this tree or the leaves here. Down on the road, I'm gonna put a shadow by the curb and a shadow under my car, because that would definitely have a shadow from the sun underneath it. And then up in the sky, I can do some shading, and usually, just like we did with the blue sky, we made it darker up at the top and then lighter and lighter and lighter. Darker up at the top, lighter and lighter and lighter. Darker at the top, lighter and lighter. So below this is gonna be pretty much white. I can also add just like a little bit of shading to my sun or my clouds. And if it would be helpful to you to just blend it in a little bit with your finger, don't go crazy and go all over it. and put fingerprints on it, but sometimes just blending it a little bit with your finger can be good. Once I'm done with this one and did all my shading on it, I'm gonna shade underneath these two. Then I would like you to do the same sort of thing with the one on the black paper. So here, I'm gonna take out my white pencil, anything that didn't get traced, I'm gonna get that traced, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Find some thick lines, find some details in here, and I already added a thick line where I colored in the sidewalk. I colored in these details for the broken line on the road. I'm filling in the curb. I'm gonna find some areas like this where I can make that a thicker line, or doing my moon and my stars, filling in my clouds. So here's a cloud that needs to be colored in. I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter up towards the top, but if you've got stars in the cloud, I would fill those in, putting some broken lines on this. If your pencil wears out, raise your hand, let me know. I'll give you one that's sharper. And when I'm done doing this, I'm going to take it and I'm gonna do shading on this also. So same idea as what I did on the other one. I'm gonna take it and I'm going to shade in just like a little bit and then get lighter and lighter and lighter. Shade it, lighter and lighter and lighter. Shade it, lighter and lighter and lighter. Just to give it a little bit of contrast and detail. I could do that to the tires. I could do that a little bit on the door. Please do not color the whole paper, because this doesn't erase very well. So you can see I'm just adding a little bit of shading underneath some of these thicker lines. You can also do that C shape or that L shape that we talked about. Like this can just be shaded in a little bit. Also here and this. And that's just gonna give it the detail it needs to stand out. So I still have a little more work to do on this. And something that's a little different about this sky is that instead of shading it from the top to the bottom, since the top is gonna be darker, I can make this sky behind here go from light to dark. So that's kind of fun too. Just putting a little bit of white near the horizon line and bringing it up a little bit higher. And I would definitely do that here into these two. So please don't rush this. I could spend lots and lots and lots more time working on the shading of all my details, but I would like you guys to have as much work time as possible. So I'll keep working on this one as you guys work on yours. So let's have fun doing some shading and putting detail into your cityscapes.